Let's slide our hands up to the knees, close them in, push them away, and now they'll mirror each other. So they go away from each other and in, push forward, open out. Yeah, so parallel circles. And next time they come in, let's reverse that and feel how the pelvis is rocking back and forth a little bit. So this leg and hip movement is creating some pelvic tilt. And next time we have the knees together and in close to the chest, let's squeeze them in tight. Inhale, exhale, chin tuck. Really try to tap your nose to your knees, curled up in a tight ball. And then let's release and set our feet down flat in our neutral. Wonderful. Okay, so we might rest our hands on the front corners of the pelvis so we have a sense of where those bones are. And then let's slide one leg out long while we keep the pelvis pretty quiet. So we're feeling that these two hip points are still level with each other. Now let's put an extra long reach through that heel as we did before. So we might feel like this side of the pelvis gets lengthened just a little bit farther away from the ribs. So we have a lot of stretch on this side of the waist. So then let's take our focus to that side of the pelvis that we're going to keep it stretched really far away from the ribs as we drag that heel in far enough for the foot to be flat and then slide it away. So we want to think that we're using the reach away to create all this length through the waist. And then how do we preserve all that space as we drag the foot in rather than let that side of the pelvis scrunch in? Yeah, so we're getting that really clear hip crease. That looks like it's working really well. So once you brought your foot in as close as you can with that neutral, go ahead and float just to tabletop. Again, not too close because we don't want to scrunch the pelvis on that side. And then just float it back down, slide it out. Let's do that a few more times. So kind of resisting the urge to shorten that side of the waist as we come all the way up to tabletop. Good. And if you start to feel crowded in the hip flexor when you come to tabletop, you could rotate into a little bit of turnout and let the knee travel just slightly off to the side if that gives you a feeling of more space. You might need that for your structure. And the next time you go out long on the floor, let's stay out there and give that glute a really strong squeeze. You might feel like that tips your pelvis over the other direction and it's helping to open things up after all that pulling that we just did. And then relax that, slide that foot in. So we're back to neutral. And then let's go ahead and slide the other leg out to that long position. And now we're going to focus on that side of the pelvis, really put a long reach through that heel. Feel that entire half of the pelvis get a little farther away from the ribs on that side. And then let's start with the drag in and slide away. So foot will stay on the floor for these first ones. Just seeing how close can we bring the heel to the sit bone without causing that side of the waist to shorten. And if that's going well, go ahead and transition into your tabletop. Notice that that gets trickier, right? To start to bring the knee in even closer, but to still not let that side of the pelvis get scrunched. It'll also limit how close we can bring the knee. That's part of what we're looking for. How close can we bring the knee without shifting the pelvis? Next time we go out long, let's leave it out there and squeeze that glute really tight. Let it tip the pelvis a little bit to the side. Press that hip point open, open. Good. And then let's relax to center. Go ahead and drop both legs out if that feels okay. Kind of right away, squeeze both glutes. So we're squeezing the glutes to press the hip creases open. And then go ahead and relax and soften there. And we're going to lie on one side, so you might want to grab your pillow. Okay, once you're set, let's start with both legs out really long. And let's give this upper side of the pelvis a little push so we feel that length through the waist. Let's slide our toes to the front edge of the mat, but we want to keep the sit bone elongating to where the feet were, right? So you have that straight line through the torso and the sit bone. Let's float that top leg up to hip level. Good. So let's do a similar thing. We're going to fold the knee to a forward tabletop, and then we're going to press out. And now this is going to be in line with the torso. So it's going to be behind the other leg a little bit. So this is what we were doing. First thing, lie on our backs, right? Can we fold the knee in without scrunching the side of the pelvis up? So yeah, really keep that pressed out super long. Yeah, and then when we reach the leg out, that helps us really set that position. Then we just have to maintain it. Good. Okay, so the next level of challenge is the full side kick motion where now the leg is staying straight and we're creasing the hip. And then go ahead and press way far back, get that glute squeeze and open the hip. Yeah, so creasing the hip and opening the hip. Yeah, and this pelvis just stays stretched out so long the whole time. Doesn't matter where the leg is. Good. And of course, the other side of that is we feel really strong and really lifted on this underneath side of the waist. Gorgeous. 2 more times. Last one. And when we reach back, let's stay back there. Go ahead and get the arm reaching opposite the leg. So try to feel your longest line from fingertips to toes, reaching, and then just melt them down to the floor and relax. Gorgeous. Let's go ahead and come up. We'll leave the legs on this side of us and come into a mermaid type of thing. And if that wrap doesn't work, you can make that a half straddle. But we just want to be in a place where we can rotate that hip forward and back. Yeah, forward and out of the ground, back and down into the ground. Yeah, that leg can be wherever facilitates that rotation. Just one more time. Beautiful. All right, let's swing it around to the other side. Okay, so first, let everything be aligned, crown to heels, and feel, the length through the upper side of the waist, especially. Slide those toes forward, front edge of the mat. Give the pelvis even a little bit more push away. Good. Let's float to the horizontal. Let's start with the bending knee, so we're finding that tabletop, and then push straight opposite your crown. Yeah, so folding in, inhale, exhale, reaching away, long waist, keeping the length. Yeah, so we're just curious, how much can we fold the hip and the knee without pushing the pelvis around? Great, one more with the bending knee. Perfect, okay, and then long leg, let's sweep it forward and press way back, open the hip. Good, inhale. Exhale. Gorgeous. And again, working so hard in this underneath side. If you reach your fingertips under here, should feel like really contracted muscle if we're keeping this hip pushed so far away. Last 2. Beautiful. And 1. And then we'll stay back there. Feel where those toes are. Let's reach the fingertips opposite, longer and longer. Deep breath into that. And melt that into the ground. Beautiful. And so now we'll gather ourselves into that side of mermaid or half straddle. And then again, we're just wiggling around. Nothing official. Yeah, just kind of let that heat dissipate from that hip. Exactly. Okay, and we'll go ahead and make our way up to standing work. Let's do a standing version of what we've been thinking about today in terms of being able to crease the hip without shortening the waist. Yeah, so facing the chair, go ahead and come into your narrow V shape, and then we'll pick our first working leg up and put it behind the ankle. And notice it's subtle, but in this position, we've got a little bit of a hip crease. Now, what if we slide this leg back so we go more knee to knee, and then we return ankle to ankle or foot to ankle? As we go knee to knee, feel how that's opening, flattening the hip crease, and then we recrease it to come to the ankle again. So do that a few more times and feel how ideally pelvis is staying really still. Yeah. And we're just changing our hip angle, opening it, creasing it. Good. Okay, so now from ankle to ankle, standing leg is bent. Let's start to float that leg and let it seesaw you. Feel free to just put your forearms across the back of your chair. Now let's try the same thing. Slide this leg around behind you as much as you can without changing your pelvis. So that's opening the hip crease. And then bring this knee around to the side so we fold it. And we're just going to slowly go back, squeeze the glute, open the hip, leg is wrapped behind us, out to the side, more of that fire hydrant position, fold, yes. And feel free to take the hand to that side of the pelvis and push on it as the knee is coming around to the side, just to be sure we're not shortening the waist, because if so, we're really using that side of the lower back to do this rather than strengthening the hip. Yeah, gorgeous. Just a couple more times. So really this is a core exercise. Can we keep the spine and the pelvis super still? Good. Okay, next time we wrap behind, let's hold that and feel glute is on, hip line is open, ankle and heel are way back behind the tailbone. And now from here, let's take that leg just toward the floor 1 inch and back up toward the ceiling. So we're keeping it wrapped behind us. We're keeping the open hip. Yeah, and we're just getting a little float through the glute, floating out of the ground. Good, you got it. And then let's stay up there and turn that into a faster little pulse going up and up and up. Good. And we're not letting the knee drift off to the side. We're not letting that hip sneak into a crease. It's staying open and we're hovering. Last 4, 3, 2, hold it. Let's slide that leg straight like somebody is pulling that ankle back away from your tailbone. Whole side of the waist as long as we can make it. Let's start to lift through the low belly and chest until that big toe locates the floor. And slide it in. Gorgeous. Go ahead and set back to your pull away stretch. That was perfect. Let's pedal a bit. Maybe some cat-cow while we're back here. Fantastic. And then let's just get a few hula hoops before we do all that on the other side. So maybe 3 one way, 3 the other way. And then let's turn ourselves about and come right back into your first position facing your chair. And let's pick up that second side, working ankle to ankle. And then we'll do that little slide behind knee to knee. And then slide forward ankle to ankle. Yep. And same thing, you could always take your one hand to your pelvis and feel how this block is staying perfectly still. And it's just this leg opening the hip, creasing the hip. Good. Okay, next time you get ankle to ankle, that's looking good. We're in a little bit of a plie. So we can get a little seesaw, tipping forward. Okay, now squeeze that glute and wrap that ankle around behind yourself as far as you can. Totally open hip line. And then crease that hip 90 degrees. Knee carves out to the side and wrap behind. And crease to the side. Yes, and that nice long open spiral of the wrap behind. That's what's called attitude in ballet. This one out to the side, that doesn't really exist in ballet. In barre, it's called fire hydrant, because that's what it looks like. Yeah, so really feeling that clear difference between a long attitude position and that side fold fire hydrant. Go ahead, a couple more times. Maybe in contemporary ballet, you might see a fire hydrant. Good. Okay, next time we have it wrapped back behind ourselves, take a moment. Be sure the glute is fully contracted so we have this all the way open. And then we'll just come down an inch, float, squeeze. Yeah, so the whole leg lowers, the whole leg lifts. Yeah. And it's fine on this, for the pelvis to rotate open. So you really might feel like it's the whole side of the leg that's hovering upward. A whole more. And then hold it up there and give that glute a tiny little pulse squeeze. And again, you might even look over your shoulder and just be sure your knee isn't drifting out to the side at all, but we're really keeping it wrapped back there. For 8, just going toward the ceiling. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold it. Imaginary friend starts walking away with your ankle. Leg stretches long, 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 long. Keep that long line as we float ourselves up tall. And close in. Amazing. All right, let's pedal it and cat-cow it. When you're ready to roll up from there, let's go ahead and just have a seat. Whichever leg was just lifting, we might feel a little hotter on that side. So let's start with the other one crossing over. Wherever you have less heat, let's cross that ankle first. And let's keep the ankle in a flex and let's just float the knee a little and gently, actively press it toward the ground. A couple more times, little float and press, little float, press. Good. And then see if you can put your hand on your heel bone and your hand on your knee and almost kind of hug your hands toward each other. And then tip forward until you find the stretch of your dreams. And breathe. Let's float up. And then the hand that's on the knee, pull a little bit more with that one so it actually rotates us toward the knee. And, you know, don't fall off the chair, but let's take the chest a little bit over that way. And then float up and then start pulling with the heel hand a little bit more. Can we really rotate ourselves a little bit toward the foot? And what does it feel like to kind of reach your chest over that direction? A stretch. Nice. And then one more thing. Let's go ahead and just cross it all the way over and then give ourselves a nice lifted spiral away from that. Let's stay that tall as we come around to the front and uncross for a sec. Let everything balance. Yeah. And then switcheroo. And first, let's just get that little bit of float just so we can activate into the rotation twice more. Beautiful posture. Love it. Okay, let's stay pressed open. Let's kind of hug into the ends of that shin bone, and then we're tipping forward. Nice. And when you're ready to float up from there, we can go a little bit toward the knee, lean out that way. And up and then toward the heel. Chest reaches out that way. And up, full cross and big lifted spiral. Tall to the front, cross. Give your heels a little, remember our soleus push-up, little bouncing of the heels. Makes your body think you're out for a long walk. Good. And then let them both ground. Let's get one more enormous deep breath and get those ribs high up off your pelvis. And breathe out. Have a glorious week.